Alex Coop obviously is not here, he's absent. Jeffrey Crane,
Here.
Peter Coyne,
Here.
David Silk, I know he is excused absence, and myself, Ed Getty, here. Approval of the previous minutes from our meeting, that was July 23rd. Could I have a motion to accept those?
I'll move to approve the July 23rd meeting minutes.
Okay, moved by Peter, second?
Yep.
You second it? Okay, second by Jeffrey. All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. What do we got next? New business, I guess. We have one case to hear. I should probably give you another little overview of how we're gonna do things. I'm supposed to do that at the beginning of each meeting, so bear with me. So again, the board may ask questions during each appeal. The board may again receive any oral or documentary evidence, but shall exclude any irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious evidence. Each party shall have the right to present his or her case or defense by oral or documentary evidence. Again, to submit rebuttal evidence and to conduct such cross-examinations as may be required for a full and true disclosure of the facts. After the appeal is presented, the board may continue to deliberate or may close the hearing and continue deliberation for up to 60 days from the date of the appeal or longer if the taxpayer extension of the time has been submitted by the appellant. After a decision is reached, the secretary of the board shall issue a written decision for each appeal and send to the appellant, the assessor, and the Cumberland County Commissioners within 10 days. If the board fails to give written notice of its decision within 60 days of the date of the application was filed, unless the application agrees in writing to further delay, the application is deemed denied, and the applicant may appeal to the Supreme Court as if there had been a written denial. So there is the housekeeping part. So what we'll do, again, we're actually reconvening the hearing we had back on July, 23rd? And I'm gonna let Connie begin, who is the applicant today, again, and tell us what you would like to present today. And then we can ask you questions, and then we're gonna have the assessor present her information, and then we can ask her questions, okay? So hopefully we will get this, all the facts out, which we just felt we didn't have enough the last time. So, and I have reviewed all the documents, and looks like we do have some more information. So, Connie, if you'd like to begin, again, this is for the property at 46 Island Pond Road in Harrison. You have the floor.
Thank you. Because I didn't receive any of this information until 3 days ago, I wasn't able to forward this to you. So I have to do it this way.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So my understanding coming from the last meeting was for me to follow up on the property file and visit the property and bring back my findings,
Right.
and that's what's to be presented at this meeting. Is it?
If you had done that and she had anything to add from what you were presenting, she would have the opportunity to include it.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything, the additional information, as long as you all get it, which is a copy
Yep.
here for you, okay? I would hope that we wouldn't go back through everything we talked about before, because that would just be repetition, we don't need that.
Right.
What we really need, again, as you mentioned, is to concentrate on the additional information. If you could do that, that would help.
Yeah, that's what I've tried to prepare. Okay, we'll start with, begin with, this is in response to Parker Appraisal's latest submission. Concerning the width of my shore, I was surprised to see that 32 years ago, I thought I had 200 feet of shore. And the materials that were submitted showed me that I didn't think that. So I took a 100-foot surveyor's tape out, and I measured, and I'm glad to say I do have 200 feet. So when you asked me before, a month ago, Peter, and I said I never had 200, I was wrong. And I'm glad to admit it, because I'm very pleased to realize I do have that much. So it's 200 feet at the shore and 172 feet at the road. There are several errors in the most recent submission by Parker Appraisals. Page 74, if you want to turn to 74, I hope yours lines up the same as mine does. Okay, in number 1 it reads, a 2-foot cross culvert was replaced between 46 and 50 Island Pond Road. There is no culvert between 46 and 50. One was replaced between 50 and 60 Island Pond Road. Quote, the town has received no complaints of flooding and has never had an issue with the water running over the road. So if you turn to attachment number 1, first you have a map of the property as the best I could draw it. And then you'll see the photo number 1, that's the culvert that was replaced. And the building that you're seeing in the top photo is the Pondside Camp that belongs to Turner, which is 5918. I'm 5917. So this is 18, and you can see that the culvert popped out of the road, and it took a while, but when they came, they did a splendid job. They put a much larger culvert and plunge pools on both sides with riprap, and it's held beautifully. And that's my little cat that you see there. I got the picture. He goes for a walk with me every day. Okay. (75)2, there are 2 culverts installed in the man-made ditch by Ms. Allen and her father. And then on 76D, they're referred to as 2 unpermitted culverts. And you could look on page 103 of her submissions, and you'll see the photo of the 2 culverts. Okay, 103. Yes, 103. And the first culvert was placed many years before the second one.
Which one is the first one?
The one on the
upper-
bottom was the
Okay.
first one.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity, well, the town was changing a culvert, and I asked if I could have the old one, and used that, and gave me a little more added protection. Okay, next. Quote, the town issued notices of violation titled Stop Notice in October of 1994 to cease installation of the culverts, unquote. A stop work order was delivered by the town manager when a misunderstanding occurred. It was permissible under my building permit, and the dirt from digging the basement was used as cover. The town manager gave his permission, and I continued on. Quote, on September 11, 2008, Ms. Allen submitted a letter to the town, indicated she did not want additional ditching to divert water as it would disturb her rose bushes, unquote. The letter is on page 89, if you want to turn to it, paragraph 4. It's really nice having this on the computer, it's so easy. Okay, page 89, on paragraph 4. After thanking the road foreman for good work, I wrote, "You said you would have that side cleaned out and lowered slightly so that the driveway runoff would flow directly into the culvert. I, as landowner, gave you permission to do just that. You indicated you would also have a ditch dug along my property. I said that was not suggested in the watershed survey, and there was never a problem that would address. I'm asking that you not disturb my property between the culvert and driveway." It was not about the rose bushes. And if you'll turn to attachment 2, you'll see that this is from this watershed survey that our pond association paid for, had done. Okay, on page 2, at the top of the page, the first one is my property. And if you look over to the right, under impact, it's a low impact. And it just asked me to add more surface material to the driveway. And then go down to the bottom one, that's also my property, and it asks that I establish more vegetation at the pond, which I immediately did. And again, the impact was low. On neither of those is there any mention of a ditch being built along my property. Wasn't suggested, wasn't necessary. On page 75, 2 as well, on a quote, on 3/2/2011, a letter written by Ms. Allen was submitted to the town manager requesting the cross culvert under Island Pond Road not be unplugged. Ms. Allen wished to have the culvert inactive. The town had previously suggested doing a ditch along the road to catch the runoff, but Ms. Allen refused this suggestion, as noted in the 9/11/06 letter. Okay, we've just discussed that ditch. There was no need for it. These are 2 separate parcels entirely that have been combined into this one paragraph. Moving on page 91, you'll see my letter on page 91. A letter written, quote, a letter written by Ms. Allen was submitted. Okay, I'm sorry, I already read that. My letter of 9/15/08, paragraph 3 reads, "The survey explicitly says cross culvert on Island Pond Road. Do not unplug this culvert because of the vast amount of soil previously washed through it to the pond from Temple Hill. That culvert is at the intersection of Temple and Island Pond Roads, a half mile from my home." And if you'll turn to attachment 3, you will see, again, from the Shoreland Watershed Survey, in the bottom line, do you have that? On the bottom line, in the middle section, it says, junction of Temple Hill and Island Pond Road. And then you read over to the next big column, cross culvert under Temple Hill. Do not unplug this culvert. That had nothing to do with my property. I wrote that letter as secretary of the Pond Association. Okay. Any questions? On page 76, on March 3, 2011, Ms. Allen submitted a second letter showing dissatisfaction with the annual grading of the road, insisted the town return her property to its prior condition. Please see attachment number 4. And that's photographs of what they did to my property. They came along with the grader and they dug in over a foot in depth and carried away my land without any permission and without justification. And then you see the bottom photo is the end of my driveway, where the whole bottom of my driveway has been removed. So yes, I did ask them to return it. The grading, on paragraph 4, I wrote, the grading left loosened topsoil so that much of it blew into our yards and homes each time a vehicle passed. The disturbed topsoil also washed into the pond, taking phosphorus, feeding algae, negatively affecting the pond's water quality. And then the next paragraph, again, page 93, instead of grading, the potholes could be filled with the proper grade of gravel, such as was used when the culvert was replaced. It held up despite pounding rains. That was in my letter. So now, they do grade several times, and have for all the time I've lived there. They grade several times each summer. And each time, we have continuous dust storms filling our yards, into our homes, and into our lungs, and you can hear it in my lungs when I'm talking. Because it's so dry now, we're getting so much dust. At an LEA road maintenance workshop, it was emphasized that if you're not going to roll the road after, do not grade it. But I don't think they've learned that yet. But 3 years ago, the road foreman at that time, Dennis Mishu, brought in gravel, which I say is crushed rock, but it's called gravel, and spread it the length of the road. It was marvelous. No more dust, no more potholes. It held beautifully. And boy, did we tell him how grateful we were. Since then, there's been another person who does the grading, and he's graded it all up. And now we're back to all the dust again. And they did not replace the gravel this summer, so we've dealt with it. And being a particularly dry summer, it's really been a problem. I've never had asthma, I've never had problems, but I am now. Because it's a lot of dust. Okay, now, page 76. Additional findings show shoreland zoning violations of building without permits, refusal of planning board site visits, as well as notices for not complying with the required septic installation. I reviewed my file today at the town office. There are several things in there, and I can read right here. My property had stood vacant for a decade. During that time, neighbors on both sides had encroached severely. When I moved in, when I bought the property and found out where my lines were, I politely asked them to move back onto their own land. They weren't happy about that, and they made it very difficult for me to get building permits or for me to do anything with my property. So there's a lot in my file there at the town office. Letters from me explaining what I'm trying to do, and complaints from them saying I'm too close to their property lines, which was not correct. I had a survey, showed where my line was, and it was very easy to determine my line because all you had to do was go down 4 properties to the town stone monument, which was the county monument and the town. And you just measure, and you got my line. And that's it. It's very simple. And all the deeds, everything matched that. Took a while to convince them of that because they'd gotten used to using part of what became my property. Actually, I should say, it was my property from the 1950s. Because when my parents bought the property, they put it in the names of the 3 youngest children, of which I'm the youngest. And, but I didn't know it until my mother passed in 1988. And then I moved in 89 and began using it. And then in 94, June 30th of 94, I took full ownership of it. I bought it from about the other 2 shares. And you'll see that the next thing that is said here is The septic system plan, oh, yes, it says that, back here, she said that they were not complying with the required septic installation. If you will look at attachment 5, and the date on that is July 1694. That's 16 days after I bought my property. I had the septic plan in place, and there's a photo here of it being installed with a 1,000-gallon septic tank. And if you look at the drawing, you see there are 9 infiltrators. I paid top dollar to get the very best system I could because I did not want to have anything reach the pond. It is the best system on the pond, I can tell you that, other than for the $1 million home across the way. Okay. 76B, quote, "There's debris that has been piled there by the owner," unquote. That debris are the tree prunings, leaves, and soil that I've piled all along the ditch across my entire yard as a berm to stop or slow down all I can any flooding when the rains come, that, and they're getting worse as we all know, when it finally jumps the ditch. It would have to come up over 3 feet, but it has come almost to the top before. So I've made this berm. It's not debris, it's piled there for a purpose. And hopefully it's going to save my house, my foundation, when we have a very serious flood. May not work, but I'm doing what I can. Okay, next one, quoting again from 76D. Quote, "It would take a substantial flood to fill this with water where it would impact the property," unquote. Yes, it would. And I provided a photo on page 8 in my previous submission of just such a flood. And here, if you look at attachment 6, you'll see it in black and white. In the first submission, it was in color, and it was a little easier to make it out. But this is the corner of my property, and the ditch has overflowed and is starting across my side yard. And it is, I got down in there with the tape measure, it's 6 feet deep. But it still takes a lot of water to fill it, and it did fill. Next one, 76E. Ms. Allen has stairs and a paddle boat. Well, she overlooked the paddle board. Neither of them are motorized, and neither need a boat ramp. There isn't either available, there isn't a boat ramp available on the pond. So they're both non-motorized. Again, 76E, quote, "We asked if the property had ever flooded, and Ms. Allen said no, but it could," unquote. That is incorrect. She asked if it had flooded out to a certain point, and I said not yet, but close to it.
Who asked that?
I'm sorry?
Who asked that question? Who misquoted you?
Jessica,
Okay,
yes. She's the one that came to take the photos.
okay.
Okay. Again, see the photo on page 8, you see where it floods. That had where it just had started. If I'd taken photos later, I probably would have shown more yard, but that's what I captured on camera at that moment. Next paragraph, quote, "Island Pond drains to Crooked River, which flows to Sevago Lake and provides drinking water for more than 200,000 people in southern Maine. See attachment 7. And I provided some information about Crooked River. As you may recall, last month I said I really felt that Island Pond property should be assessed closer to Crooked River. And so I just provided some information here for comparison. If you own on Crooked River, you can take your boat all the way to Sebago Lake, 38 miles. And on the way, catch salmon. Only 4 places in Maine where you can catch landlocked salmon. Excuse me. Just while I was compiling this information about Crooked River, on Facebook came a photo of a friend who celebrated her 70th birthday by swimming in Crooked River. So I just put that in there, just. But the swimming is good. The water is very good in Crooked River because it is part of the water supply to Sebago Lake. Okay.
Take your time.
Okay. As she said, it does drain, Island Pond does drain through a stream to Crooked River. And unfortunately, that is a problem because Island Pond water quality has steadily decreased. It's one of only 3 of the 42 lakes that LEA monitors that's water quality is decreasing. That's very, very concerning for us. And on attachment page 8, you'll see that it's a chart of a yearly degree of concern. And it starts in 1985. Between 85 and 99, there were 7 years of noticeable improvement, and that's after the boys' camp had closed. In 1999, it opened up as a girls' camp, and they began water skiing and wake boating, which causes a tremendous amount of erosion, washes phosphorus into the pond, feeds the algae, decreases the quality of the pond. So yearly degree of concern went from moderate to very high and remained there until 2013 when this report was written. It hasn't gotten any better. It's still a serious problem. Page 78, quote, "The property has a very low chance of flooding and no overflow of water over the road in this location," unquote. Okay, so moving on to the next one. First thing I did was to do a research about flooding in Maine. And so that's what that page is, page 9. And as it says, the increasing frequency and intensity of these events are causing concerns and leading to discussions about flood mitigation. We've got a problem. We're getting more and more rains, and no, we're not getting more rains. We're getting more torrential rains when we do get them, which unfortunately is probably what we're building up to now too, with not hardly having any rain for a month. Okay, if you look at the next page, I apologize for the quality of the photo, but you're looking at the space between my driveway and 59, 15, and 16. And what you're seeing is all that water, because it has, it's filled up with water, and you can see it's like a raging river in the background there. And the next page shows it a little better. I'm standing in my driveway taking that photo. The next page is on the road, and you can see how it has flowed over the road, into and over the road.
Can I just ask, is there a date on when these pictures are from?
What?
Is there a date from when these pictures are from?
I don't have a date on these. I do on some others.
Is this, like, do you have a general proximity of when those pictures were taken?
It would have been sometime in either 2022 or 2023. But you can see how the water has washed across the road. And you see the neighbor's driveway there. And just below the driveway, in that corner, is the culvert that goes under the road. And it's just not big enough. It needs to be enlarged. And then the next photo, looking north up Island Pond Road, and you can see that on the left, you can see part of my driveway. And again, all the water rushing across the road. Now, let's see, I think we're ready to. Okay, on page 70, still on page 78. The homeowner's refusal and clear avoidance of proper ditching and road repairs could lead to the concerns Ms. Allen is describing, unquote. As described above, it was not proper ditching, and it would not stop the flooding of the area between the two driveways and the overflowing across the road. The ditch along the road would only direct the water to the same undersized culvert. Not gonna do anything. And so now, Bryson is going to show us some videos. And that I took with my camera, that some of these photos you've just seen come from. And yeah, this first one, please. This one will show the whole thing, please. Again, I'm standing in my driveway and looking, that's the neighbor's house over there. And you can see that whole area is filled with water.
What is the date of these videos?
Excuse me?
What is the date of these
I
videos?
don't know the date, but with the snow, you can tell it's probably late fall, early.
I just asked, is this during those, the storms that we had
Okay,
in January of '24?
What?
Was this during the storms that we had in January of '24 and?
No, these are 22 and 23. Okay, we jumped ahead. That wasn't in order, but it's okay. This is going across my backyard. There, see the fence right there? That's Turner's culvert. All of that water is coming out of his culvert into my yard. So would you do the second one, please? I guess they're just sort of order.
So I just played this one, and I played this one.
Oh, well, okay, good. So we'll go to the third one then. Thank you. Okay, so again, it's showing. Okay, I just wanted you to see that corner. That's where the culvert is. And you can see it's just not doing the job. And all of the, and of course it's taking, part of the road with it as it washes across. Okay, next one, please.
Is your driveway behind you in that picture? Is it behind and to the left?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes, back here, my driveway. That's the neighbor, that's 15, 16,
Yeah.
and I'm over here, 17. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now which one is this one?
This would be the fourth one.
Okay, so this is just to show, it's coming down into my culvert. So you can stop it right there, please.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I think they saw it anyway. But just to show, my bottom culvert is filled to capacity and the water has come up and it's almost reached, at that point, almost reached the second culvert above. And it did eventually get up and then flood over the top.
And is that where the footbridge is?
No, the footbridge is down a ways, closer to the road.
Okay.
Okay. And then the next,
Far
next one. Oh, again, they're out of order.
Is there a
Okay,
different one?
okay, you can stop that one. Okay, there's one that's missing, I think. Well, that's all right. There, thank you, Bryson, I appreciate your help. If you look at your last 2 pages in the packet that I gave you, okay, in the top photo, you'll see the fence, and his fence stops right at the edge of the ditch. But then, but if you look to the left there, you'll see his land extends, and by measure, it's over 50 more feet. And you see, there's enough space for him to put his RV and another building and a shed on that space. So he has much more use of his land than I do. If he hadn't put that culvert there, I might have been able to do the same thing. But now, if I tried to put a culvert and close over like he did, the water's just gonna flood across my entire yard. We wouldn't have any, it's gotta go somewhere. So it goes through his culvert, comes out onto my property, runs across my property, and then down the side. And, okay, there's a photo, the second last one's a photo of his culvert. And the last photo is, I'm in the ditch, closer to the road, but just showing you how high, it gets about 5 feet high on that side. And so it protects the driveway of 59, 15, and 16. I hasten to add that I'm not faulting the neighbor for putting the culvert. He did what he wanted to do. Nevertheless, it's put me in this situation in terms of flooding. And I know that wasn't his intent, he didn't think that, but that's what's happened. So the backyard, I can't do anything with it. Now, if you look at the very first page, there's this poor attempt at a map that I drew. And you'll see that I have about, at the road, I have 170 feet, 5 feet, 6, I think it is, across. But about 40 feet by 40 feet is the area that we've just seen all the videos of, that's totally flooded. And then if you go back, 110 feet from the road, you get the ditch. So my basic yard is about 110 by 130 in terms of what I can use of my yard, because the rest floods. I apologize for the map. I just tried to do something that I thought might be helpful for you, but I mean, it's not very good quality, but it's the best I'm not an artist, I don't claim to be, or a photographer, as you can see, but Any questions about anything I've presented?
Any questions from the board?
No, I don't.
None for me.
Okay, let's hear from the assessor. I know you've got all kind of paperwork here.
Yeah. So just wanted to touch base, obviously you've received everything and you've reviewed everything. The addendum was really just to point out, last time there was some miscommunication about the shoreline, the shore frontage. It is 200 feet. We verified that by documents in the file, applications, and by the deed. So that's just that documentation showing that information. Some follow-up questions as far as the stop notice on the culvert goes. The only documentation in the file that we are aware of is the stop notice. There's no additional communication from any town official saying that they've given her the go-ahead. We just went off with what was in the file and there's no communication otherwise. ultimately, what we were looking at when we visited the property is to see what was there, how it impacts the property, and how we think it's going to affect or its value. A lot of the documentation in the file stated that the culvert or the ditch was man-made. So it indicates it on a lot of applications, on a lot of permitting, that ditch behind the house was man-made. Whatever that reason was, I'm not sure. I don't have that, but it was a man-made ditch created to do whatever the purpose was. The two culverts that were installed on her property, as she stated, one was where I put in my letter, the original one was installed, which was the lower one by her father, and then the top one was installed by her. I don't know if that putting the soil there and putting culverts hinders the flow of water or it helps the flow of water. I don't know that. That's just what's existing there. When we went, I brought the code enforcement officer with me, so I would have somebody there to, just make sure he was hearing both sides of the conversation. We did both ask if the ditch had ever flooded over where the ditch is to reach any of her usable property, and she said no. And that was exactly what I asked. I did ask if it ever impacted her foundation, and she said no. So where the ditch lies, that was the question, was had it ever flooded? And she said no. When you look at the property, and this is not specific to just her property, is when you're driving down Island Pond Road, if you're coming from the Temple Hill Road, pond is on your right-hand side, all properties are on your left-hand side, and they're all at an incline. They're all kind of up a little bit, on a hill almost, I would say. So just by the basic layout of all of the properties, you're gonna have some kind of water flow coming down because that's the nature of gravity. How, it's ditched or whatever in between individual properties, I didn't go to every property and look for streams or anything. But that's not individual to this property, is that they're all kind of located in that same fashion. We really look to see what's individual of her property. Everybody knows that there's going to be astronomical tides and floods and rains, like the weather pattern is just changing, and that again is not specific to this property. That is something that affects many properties, and we can't assess and change value based on what can happen. We have to assess it on what is. We also took into account too, the lake and the amenities that it adds. She does have access down to the water with a little dock, or it's more like a deck or a dock right down there, so she can get into her paddle board and paddle boat, leisurely, use the property. It's a gorgeous spot for canoeing and non-motorized. I mean, it's beautiful. There's a picture of the camp that's down at the end showing people using the water. It's safe to swim in, it's safe to use. Based on all of those findings and my discussions with the town and all of the records that I had available to me, I still don't see it. We've given her, like I said, we've given her the 10% depreciation or reduction in the land due to size, shape, and topography. And based on that, we still cannot find that we think a market value of $315,000 for a waterside property is overvalued. And we also fall back onto the process of when you're looking at an abatement application, we haven't put any illegal or, or like misinformation. We've assessed her in the same manner we've assessed everybody on Island Pond, so she's being fairly and equitably treated. We've adjusted for factors that impact her property, so the size and shape, topography. But other than that, we don't think that this particular thing is that devaluing to her property. We still think that a $315,000 value for the property sitting on the water is appropriate.
Okay, back to question.
Steve?
I don't disagree with you on the valuation, so understood.
Yep.
And I know that you have a lot of leeway based on statute, 10% above and below, so you, in theory, you could be off by 60,000 and be fine.
Right.
So, and unfortunately, that's the statute, so
It was 10%.
10% either direction, so on $300,000, you're looking at a $60,000 differential. So, here's my problem with what was presented. You went to the we asked for you just to go to the property and see if the lay of the land, the topography that she was describing in the July 23rd meeting was reflective of what she was describing, to see if you were missing something related to something that would impact value on the land. And of course, we can't just adjust for land. We have to look at the whole valuation of the property. So you show up with the code enforcement officer who's pointing out things like the footbridge.
No, the code enforcement officer was not there pointing anything out to me.
Okay.
He was there as an escort from the town office, just to be a third party in communications. I went through the file privately by myself without his
Right.
input. I took
I'm
the
glad you mentioned
pictures.
that, because this is my next question.
Yep,
So you went through the file and you made note after note after note about everything that Ms. Allen did. The optics on this are bad, and I'm gonna explain to you why.
okay.
So you're talking about a stop notice order issued in 1994 that was explained in about 9 seconds by Ms. Allen of how that was a misunderstanding. The septic, the work continued, it was a non-problem. That could have been a phone call. And instead, when Ms. Allen received this line-by-line thing of everything that she did wrong, all of them could have been easily addressed by literally a 30-second phone conversation. So did you or the CEO make a phone call to Ms. Allen before you wrote this and then submitted it to the board?
No, because many of the items in the finding in this letter have additional documentation, which I didn't think were necessarily, like, I didn't want to provide you with the entire file, but, you know, the blatant not filing for a shoreline zoning permit. She just started building on her property without permitting. And whether it had to do with legal lot lines or how far it was, you know, not relevant.
But all we asked you to do is go to the property and say,
Sure.
hey, is what she's saying reflective of what she was saying? In other words, were these factors that would have had a negative impact on value of the property, do they exist? Is it reflective of what she gave in her application and what she told us on July 23rd? But this is like attack after attack after attack.
It's not it's
Y'all
not
picture
meant to be
that.
attacked. What it's meant to show you is that a lot of the factors on this property may have gone
I'm gonna stop you
into.
right there, just don't interrupt me again. What this looks like is that you're bullying the applicant by going to the code file and saying, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Her family has owned the property for decades. She took ownership in 89, 90, 94. So, but, I mean, this was very disturbing to see. It's not what we were looking for. What we were looking for, and the entire board agreed to give that time frame for it to happen, was to simply look at the property, say yes or no, these factors do have a negative impact on value, and then make that decision. And if the decision was like, no, what we saw was not reflective of that, we're sticking with our original valuation. And I don't disagree with that valuation. I don't think that you're wrong. But this, I don't suggest doing this again. Do you understand how bad the optics look on this? It looks like the applicant did this, the applicant put the assessing division in a position where they felt like their back was against the wall because they had to answer questions, and came out swinging by going through a code file and saying all of these things in this in your second submission. Do you see why that would look that way?
I can understand that, but coming from I understand what you're saying, I do. But I do want to defend myself in the fact that when you do a findings of fact or anything like that, you do have to put in why a property has maybe been decreased in value, and whether it was because of property owner or if it's outside of their contribution to the property to change the value. Like how is that changing the property's value?
Well, let me give you an example. The town had previously suggested doing a ditch along the road to catch the soil runoff, but Ms. Allen refused this suggestion as noted on the letter of September 11, 2008. And she just explained, it took her 10 seconds to explain why what happened. And that could have been just, hey, I saw this in the file, I'm doing your analysis on your property, can you give me more information on this? Is this gonna have, this is going into what I'm gonna be submitting to the board. But you didn't, and it's just like, it's bullet point after bullet point after bullet point of what it looks like is bullying the applicant, because they have the right to come before the town
Sure.
and ask for an abatement. They have the right to appeal and come to us and ask for an abatement. And this just looks like an attack. It's what the optics are to me, and I've been on this board for 15 years, so I don't think that's what we're looking for. What we're looking for is for you, as the assessing agent, to go to the property, see if the characteristics that Ms. Allen had described existed, yes or no, it had an impact on value, it would change your assessment. And again, I'm not saying your assessment is wrong, but it's unfortunate that this is what became before the board. I have a problem with it.
Okay. No, so noted, yes, I understand what you're saying. Let me ask you this question. Ms. Allen presented some video of the water going over the road and obviously affecting her property. As a real estate broker, I have to disclose that, okay? We have all kind of new flood regulations here in Maine. You are not looking to take that into consideration? That, from what I'm hearing, that there is no adjustment in value or concern about that? That ditch, from what I saw from your documents, it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna flood.
Everything that we've seen in the property, like when I went, there was absolutely no water there.
What?
Absolutely no water. Miss Allen had stated that she had images, and I said, can you provide those, can you bring them? She's like, and she said she didn't know how. I said, is that something you can bring to the town office and bring and give to the town office? And she said, no, I don't know how to do that, I don't have the time to do that. So,
Excuse me, I'm going to interrupt at this point. You had asked my telephone number, so that you could let me know when you were coming. You did not do that. You arrived. I was up on the roof in 90-degree temperature, trying to deal with some damage to my roof. And I offered to come down from the roof to show you the video, and you said you didn't have time. So you said, please, make a copy and take it to the town office. And by the way, I wrote down, when I came off the roof, I wrote down everything, and the gentleman that was helping me corroborated what I remembered. We wrote down exactly what was said, as well as any memory could. And you said, then make a copy and bring it to the town. And I said, I don't know how to do that. I don't have the technical ability to do that. So you said, well, then email it to me. And I said, I don't know how to do that.
and I
And
also
I said, I'll come down and show it to you. And you said, I don't have time. And I said, then call me. Oh, you said, I want to see it before the meeting. And I said, call me and we'll make time. You did not call me. I had prepared it before you ever arrived. I made a point to find the videos so that when you did call me to make an appointment to come, I'd have it ready to show you. And I offered to do it then.
And
And
we
he-
continued the conversation with the code enforcement officer who is at the town office 5 days a week. We asked you to bring it down to him.
And I said I didn't have the expertise to know how to get it off my computer onto something.
And we said somebody could be there to help you do that.
No, that was not said. Maybe there would have been someone there to help me, but it was not said. I rely on my young neighbor to help me to do anything beyond the basics of the computer. She's been on vacation, just returned yesterday. I have not had, and so I went to the library and asked the tech there if she could help me make it into a file so that we could send it. And she worked on it, and she couldn't find a way with, I don't know if it's to do with the Mac, it didn't mesh with, I don't know, because I don't know these things, but she wasn't able to do it either. So here we are tonight, showing it.
Okay.
We'd never seen the footage, and so it was just something that we did not have access to. I asked what the dates were of the videos, just because I know that a lot of properties were impacted with the October 23 and the January 24 flooding. And if this was a one-time situation, I'm sure that happened. I'm not doubting that it didn't happen, but I can't say that that's something that's a regular occurrence that would impact the property 5 times a year, 6 times a year. I don't have that information.
You have 3 photos of 3 different times of flooding. There's a photo of when the culvert came out of the road, that was a flood. You can see all the water builds
That's
up there.
not at the subject's property, that's after her property.
It was 2 houses away, so you can be sure that my house flooded as well, my yard flooded as well. And so there was that one, and the one that shows it flooding in my back corner, coming up over the culverts. That photo is there, and then there are all the videos of it flooding at the road. So that's 3 different times of flooding. And there are I don't go out with a camera every time things happen, but I did happen to capture those 3. There have been more times.
Just a quick piece on that is, having seen that video, I've seen properties that have sitting water. In fact, my home now, occasionally there's sitting water just because it sits lower in that area. But to see rushing water, like there's no disputing, whether it could have been 20 years ago, it could be 10 years ago or whatever, had nothing, from my perspective, that had little to do with the actual culverts and what was placed there for the road, those for the road purposes. That, to Ed's point, just looking at flooding and water and things, being on a hill, I highly doubt it would ever get to a point where it floods to the point where it impacts the house. But just wondering, having seen that rushing water, that doesn't change your perspective, no matter whether what was discussed at the time on the property, but does that change your perspective at all?
I think it would be a factor that if somebody were willing or not to buy the property, but do I think that it makes the property less than $315,000? No, I don't.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Allen, further comment, question? Anything?
Yeah, I do have more, if you're willing to listen. This flooding issue affects my individual property very significantly, as I believe I have shown. But there's a bigger issue that I brought up at the last meeting that didn't get resolved, that I would hope that we could have some discussion about. We don't have to spend a lot of time, but I'd sure like it if we could spend some. Let's see if I have 1, 2. Okay, I know it enough here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
What is this one that you're submitting? Ms. Allen, what is this one?
This is about the property as a whole. That we discussed at some, well, I don't know.
Is this
How
a
much?
rebuttal to what was submitted by the town, by Parker?
That was yes, that's in the materials.
So this is a response to what you received on Thursday? Or is this something that was from, in other words, is this something new that's not
Okay.
related to
No, this is not new, because we had some discussion about it last time, and some of it is referred to, I can't
I guess
tell
my
you what
question is,
page.
is this new, is this
It's not-
new,
no,
rela-
It's not new.
but is this in relation, is this in response to what Parker presented that you received on Thursday?
No, not primarily. It refers to
I'll defer
a
to you.
lot of things that were said at the last meeting, and responding to that, and just adding some information. Yeah, that says it.
I'll defer to the chair.
What do you wanna do with that? What do you think?
And we don't typically take, I mean, the first submittal I agree with, because that was a rebuttal to what you received on Thursday from,
Right.
but it's your,
I just think I agree with you, out of order, it's from the last time, we're looking for something that's new, okay? Additional information.
It is.
Not the same stuff, this is new information?
It's new and old, I guess that's the way to say it. I mean, we addressed some of it last time, and I have responses as well as things that were said. Okay, may I just,
so this is, what we're doing tonight is the post-land property visit,
I don't know how to answer the question.
The question is, is this some of the same information that we talked about last month that's in this document?
It refers to, but it's not a reiteration,
Okay?
okay?
But it's not in response to, so what we had asked before was for the Parker appraisal to come out, review your property, and that specific response they had for last week.
Is
Is this in response to the additional
This
documentation they
is not,
provided?
this is not focused on the flooding issue, no.
Okay.
I-
My 2 cents, I wouldn't accept that.
I just don't think we can accept
This
this,
isn't something,
okay? This additional information, that would have been part of the previous discussion last month, okay? It sounds like we're gonna go back and we're gonna be talking again about the same information that we talked about at that time. We postponed that today for additional information, okay, regarding the flooding specifically. That's what we have to kind of focus on right now, than to go back and re-talk about everything else. That's not what we want to do. That's my understanding.
I don't,
So we're gonna,
it's hard for me to explain because without actually reading some of it to you. It's not a reiteration. Okay, it's talking about how their assessments are done and how it affects us on Island Pond. And I have direct quotes from her and responses from things that she said last week, and then responses that, oh, how do I do it without actually reading some of it for you? They don't use, they say they don't use appraisals, they don't use out-of-town sales, they only use 2 sales. And so there are 10 points. And it all adds up to, their final practice is to say, prove to me that we are wrong. But there's no way to do it because they throw out, see, I had submitted, comps, and they wouldn't look at them because 2 of them were out of town, they were on other ponds.
right.
But there aren't enough sales on a pond in Harrison because there's only 1 pond. what has happened is by the policies that they have used, they've made it impossible. They've made it impossible to challenge their assessments. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. The abatement law, as you fellows know very well, is to give the taxpayer a chance to challenge it, to present information. And this presents it. And I understand if you think that we can only talk about, but I didn't gather that from when you asked if we could pause it. I didn't understand that it was only about flooding. I didn't understand what you were asking when you first said, would I mind pausing it to begin with?
Well, we
Whether
already-
that meant we would come back and talk, or what, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't know
what we
the
did was
process.
we postponed a vote, is what we did, to allow the factors that you were suggesting would have changed the assessor's assessment of your property based on the factors you described, so that we allowed that, we gave the extra time for that to happen and have that assessor go on property and come up with that analysis.
And I appreciate you doing that. You know, I didn't understand when you offered it, just what you were offering. But once I did, when I went back and watched the video, and said, oh, okay, that's what they were trying, yeah, okay, thank you for doing it. But because we did stop the meeting, there was information that needed to be discussed that didn't get discussed because we paused it to focus on a particular issue.
We were actually ready to take a vote. We were ready to vote. We
Okay.
were ready to make a motion to vote when we tabled.
Okay, I didn't gather that, I didn't know that. Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
I don't know,
I
this
don't want to
may
speak out of
not,
turn, but we were,
No,
yeah.
that was it.
I was ready to vote.
Yeah, we were ready to make a decision, and we said, well, a little unusual, but we said we'd give some more time to see if there was, any additional information, not to go back to everything else, regarding this, mainly this water issue. And we now have that, we've talked about it. If you have anything more specific to that, that's what I want to know now, not everything from what we talked about before. Just in addition, regarding this issue is where we're at.
okay,
And then we're gonna have to decide what we're gonna do.
okay. Thank you for explaining that. Again, this is all new to me.
All right?
I've never done this before, and I've watched some of the videos trying to learn, what does happen. I've done a lot of reading, a lot of researching, a lot of studying. And what I found is the policies that they're using have made it impossible to prove, in my situation on Island Pond, where there's only one pond, impossible to prove that the base assessment, the base rate is not based on market value. And all of that is in here, which I wish you could read. So I'm in here doing the best that I know, that I can figure out how to do. And again, I appreciate you fellas taking the time to do this. It's a civic duty that you're performing, and I recognize that.
You've done very well to present yourself and present your case. You've done a phenomenal job.
Thank you. Literally hundreds of hours reading and
I am
learning.
sure.
Anything further, really, that you can think of? I do need to,
I didn't have a chance to present my comps last time, but just to be aware that I did present comps to them, and they rejected them.
we went through that, I
Yeah, I
know.
just want to be sure you do understand,
I,
that I've
yeah,
done everything that I could to show that my property is overvalued, and that all of Island Pond properties are overvalued, because the base rate is not based, it's only based on 2 sales that were during COVID, the 20%. And by law, they're supposed to adjust down if they do use those, and they're supposed to have more than 2 sales. And the sales were available when they weren't used. Okay, I'm kind of sneaking in more information
Okay.
here, I know.
All right.
I know, I'll stop.
I'm gonna have to
Yes,
stop you.
It's okay.
Because I want to get the assessor, in case, any other questions, additional comments. I want to make sure that I heard
No, I
anything
just,
more.
you know, we stick to our value of 315, we don't think a reduction of 115,600, you know, would, yeah, we think that'd be under market and that would skew our numbers, so that's, you know, with all of the information that we've collected, we stay with a 315.
You're comfortable with that, and the adjustment you made of the 10%? Figure that's the adjustment factors, period, that's it?
There are 4 other properties
All right.
right beside mine that are also 10% off, and they're not high shoes, just to be aware.
Okay, well, hearing all of that, I'm gonna just close the hearing at this time. And I want to now give the board the opportunity to speak. And I would like to say, just for me, Ms. Allen, you've done a fabulous job, okay? You have tried your very best. And I will agree with you, your task is very difficult to prove that the assessments are off, because it's tough. It's just hard to do. And in this case, very hard. And I hear everything you've done. I appreciate what you've done. We've tried to give you every bit of time we could to see if there was something more that could help you. But unfortunately, I'm with the assessor that the bottom line of 315,000, even though you get a water issue, is still, you know, a market value, whether you like the value or not, okay? I'm having a hard time, you know, going down to, you'd like to see your whole assessed value be at 115,600. Well,
No,
you
no,
tried.
no, no, that's not right.
200,000, I know what he's saying, a reduction of 115,600 to 200,000.
Right, a reduction of that. I'm sorry. So correct. But still, that's way too low.
I agree.
So that's my comment.
Yeah.
You wanna go next?
I just, again, waterfront property, 315.6, I think the assessor has a lot of leeway, 10% in either direction. I don't see where the applicant proved that that's not an accurate assessment.
I agree.
Okay.
That's it.
No other comment, I agree.
No, I mean, in walking through even the $250,000 per acre valuation that was provided, I can see how there was enough property. There were 3 properties that were identified that they compared to arrive at that 250,000, and I do agree with that. And just overall, even after looking at the water flow, it may be seasonal or what have you. I don't think that would depreciate it below 315,000. I think it's a good amount on the water, on a nice pond. I agree with the assessed value. I think it's worth more.
Okay, yeah. Well, we don't wanna go there.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that would
You
not,
put it on the
that would
market.
not help her on that. But, yeah, so, I'm unfortunately at the same situation. And, Ms. Allen, you have to understand us. For us to change this, we have to have such proof, because we could end up in court, okay? So we can't just arbitrarily say, yeah, you know, we'll just reduce it. We can't do that. We have to have the basis somehow to do that, and we don't have it, unfortunately.
You don't-
We were hoping we'd come up with something more, but,
They don't use appraisals, she said herself, they don't use appraisals, so there's no avenue. And that's what this handout, I mean, I understand your position too, I truly do.
yeah.
But they put us all in an untenable position. It's not legal and it's not just. And it should be stopped. I mean, it really should, and I don't know who's gonna do it. But it's not just.
Well, we can't do it.
No, I know you can't, and I knew that, you know, at some point, but no, that's not something that's within your purview.
Yeah.
But I was hoping you would hear enough that you would at least encourage them to do some adjustments and make it fair.
Yeah, well, I know that this results in a certain amount of taxes that you have to pay.
I'm not,
Okay.
it's not that the
But-
issue.
It is what it is, and we can't deal with that part of it.
No, I know, and that's never, you haven't heard me mention tax at all. That's not been the issue. The issue has been what is just and what is fair, and it needs to be based on market value. And there were 2 other sales that should have been factored in, and they refused to do it.
And
And,
we heard why, and that's the guidance and rules they have to go by.
well, no, they don't, by law. They made that policy themselves. It's an arbitrary decision. At this point, I know you've made your decision, so I know I'm not gonna change your mind. But I'm just trying to provide a little thought. How can this system be changed so it's just for the next people? If there's no other pond in town, you use comps from another pond that's equal size, similar property, and they reject it. And she said, we don't use appraisals. I've got it written, exact quote in this handout that I tried to give you.
Okay.
How does anybody challenge when there's an error that's been made? No, I mean, we're just talking now, because, I mean, again, I know what your decision is. You've already said.
Yeah, we've gotta make
Oh,
our
we gotta
decision.
move.
Yeah, go ahead, let me
So,
talk afterwards.
you wanna make a motion there, Mike?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to deny the tax abatement appeal on the basis that the taxpayer failed to prove the assessment to be manifestly wrong by either overvaluation or unjust, well, by overvaluation. And that we'd maintain the property at the assessed value of $315,600.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any other discussion by either of you? All in favor? It's voted unanimous. We're awfully sorry, but that's what we have to do today. And we thank you. Again, I thank you for all the work that you put into this. You probably have as much knowledge of the market area as anybody that I know of. So,
Well, then, wanted to know.
but thank you again.
Well,
And
and I
I'd like to
said,
thank Jen, is it
Jessica.
Jessica?
Yes.
Thank you very much for
And
coming again.
if I just may say, I just want to say that my intent, that letter to you, Ms. Allen, and to the board, my intent was not to attack the taxpayer. It was
but it was an ad hominem attack. There's no-
It was not my
no-
intent, and it was probably ill-worded, and I want to apologize for that. So,
I accept your apology.
I receive your feedback, so I just want everybody to know that.
I'm sure I'll see you again, and we're very good, so
Yes.
we're fine.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
And Ms. Allen, this is for this tax year, so this is for one tax
So the
year.
hearing is closed,
Oh, yeah,
done.
so I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
So moved, second.
Second.
Well, we just got a new tax
Hold on.
and